extraterrestrial races, but they were not willing to discuss it because they really wouldn't, they didn't have any words for that. But there was definitely not a doubt that they have seen them and they have communicated with them. As a matter of fact, there's one woman that I still stay in touch with, and she actually communicates with a specific race. They are the Pleiadians. She still does. So I was wondering if anyone else has had any experiences with them.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jose Perez. How you doing?
Hi, Rose.
Hi. I wanted to talk to you about what you just, answer your question. I had an NDE 3 years ago on a February. I ended up having a heart attack while I was in bed, and ended up in the other side. And it was a long experience that I had. I learned a lot while I was there. I don't know how long my heart stopped, and I was able to verify that the following day because I ended up going to the hospital when I came back, and they were able to, with the test that they did on me, they were able to tell that I actually had a heart attack. Um, um, while I was in the other side, I was given the privilege to ask a lot of questions, which I did. I'm one of those people that can, always want to know the beginning of things and how things work and this and that, and I'm very outspoken, and I'll sit here and ask a million questions about things. So one of the things that I actually asked about, I actually went through a life review. Throughout the life review, I was able to see everything they had to do from my past, from the time that I was born until now. And as one of there was like a virtual reality screen that was in front of me at the time, and everything was going really fast. But in the other side, like I said, it's a long story, of everything, how everything happened. I remember everything in detail. Even though I have a bad memory, but that's the one thing I can never forget. And my level of consciousness was a lot higher, so I was able to understand and see things a lot faster. So my whole life review went really fast. In that process, out of all the things that I saw, I was shown different worlds, which they're actually the ones that I saw. I didn't see the planet in the outside. I was just brought up to the location, and there were different dimensions that I saw. And it was kind of weird at the time, and even now trying to make sense of it, because what I found out was, and I don't know if anybody else experienced this, but our souls can live different in different dimensions at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I for the longest time I never understood, but now I do, in the past 3 years, is that when I was dreaming at night, when I have nightmares or I have dreams, most of the time I have dreams that I'm in the same place as now, but surrounded by different people that I know, like how my life was if I was friends with this other crew compared to this crew. And every time that I have that dream, which I have it at least twice a week, 3 times a week, it's like I can feel that I'm living a different life, you know. Um, like if this is a second scenario of how this scenario will work, you know. And I asked that question when I was in the other side, and they told me that what happens is some souls, energy souls, are able to live multiple lives at the same time, you know. And when I guess that when I'm dreaming, my soul leaves the body and goes to the other part, and I'm able to view all of those things and help myself, which is kind of weird, help myself in those situations, because your mentality level in a different dimension or a different time could be a little bit different in the decisions that you're making compared to the decision you're making today here in this world, you know. And again, like I said, I also saw, when I was there, I saw different dimensions, different planets with different people that kind of look like us, but I can tell I was in a different place. And when I asked, where am I? They told me, well, this is a different dimension. This is a different world, that people live. Then I asked about extraterrestrials, and they said, well, God made all different sorts of races, there's different types of all over the universe. but I was only able to see, I think it was 3 different places where people looked just like us, you know. And but I can tell it was different when I first appeared at the place because the buildings look different, you know, everything looks so much different than here, you know. Like it was the ones that I happened to see was like a high technology place where the buildings and everything looked so much better. And I'm like when I looked at it, I just, you know, I kind of like laughed and I was like, wow, we're so behind when it comes to technology, you know, because I was looking at certain things and I was like, this is so beautiful, you know, and things like that. Then, you know, I was taken out of there to show all different things, you know. But me as a child, and I know it has nothing to do with the NDE, but as a child, I witnessed many UFOs. You know, I actually come from Puerto Rico. I live in Connecticut now, in Waterbury, Connecticut. But I came from Puerto Rico when I was 15 years old. And as a child, you know, in Puerto Rico happens to be in the town that I live is a very active town for UFO sightings. As a matter of fact, they actually have a highway now that is called the extraterrestrial highway. And that's where everybody goes and hangs out at night tailgating. And you can see all of the lights go. And all of that section right now, which is about, I say like 200 acres, is actually owned by NASA. You know, in the past like 20 something years, NASA came down and bought all that property and covered it all up, you know, because there were just too many sightings there. But the sightings there, we understand and realize now that they're not UFOs, is what they call USOs, which is the ones that come from underwater. You know, same exact thing, but supposedly the bases are underwater. So where I live in Puerto Rico, and where that area is owned by NASA, is right by the beach. You know, so they claim. But as a child, I didn't know what it was. You know, we just thought there were helicopters at the time. You know, but as you get older, you start realizing and start learning about these things. And you see, when you see a certain light going a certain way and all of it's shooting up in the air in 3 seconds, you know, now as an adult you realize that's not a helicopter. We don't have anything that can move that fast, you know. And it was a wide open area where you can see from miles and miles away, and they just look like colorful lights, you know, all around, moving around all the time. And like they say in Puerto Rico, we don't bother them, they don't bother us. You know, but it's you know, the last time I went was probably about 6 years ago, I think it was, and I actually took a picture. It was right during the daytime, and there was an accident in one of the highways near where I live, and there was a lot of traffic, and I just happened to take a picture to send it to my girlfriend at the time because she was waiting for me at the house, and I sent her a picture to let her know that, you know, we're running late, we're stuck in traffic, there must be an accident. And probably weeks later, I'm looking at the picture. It was a very bad car accident. Looking at the picture, you could see in the clouds 2 small little ships, you know, which you could see them clearly, but it was kind of weird because they look like antique, like something that you see on the videos from back in the days, like the Nazi ships, spaceships that people talk about. That's exactly what they look like, you know. But other than that, like I said, when I was in the other side, I witnessed all of that. I saw different planets, different things. I didn't see the little green Martians that everybody talks about, you know, and this and that, the gray people. I didn't see none of that. But, you know, at least they were able to confirm to me that, yes, of course, there is other planets, there is other beings. You know, we were not, since I was a kid, I always had that doubt, and I always became very upset because I grew up in a Catholic church, you know. And my mom was very into religion and stuff like that. There was a lot of things about religion that bothered me, you know, that I just didn't make sense. You know, the Bible just didn't make sense, you know. And I just always knew, why so many planets, and there's no way that we're just not even a speck in the universe. And God, with all the power that He has, and that He can create things and do all these things and this and that, will make that mistake to having so much empty space, you know, and just one kind of beings. You know, if I have the power for creation, but I think all the planets will be overloaded right now. I will create all sorts of weird things, you know. But I just knew that was wrong. But of course, when I mentioned it to my mom, because my mom was such a devoted Christian, you know, he was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You can't argue what, you know, what the Bible says. You must be from the devil, or, you know, it's the devil in you telling you all these things." But I just knew it was wrong. I just knew it inside it was wrong. You know?
Wow, good story.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But like I say, if you want to see UFOs, that's where you go. You go to Puerto Rico.
What's the name of the town?
You'd be
Actually, you can-
surprised how many in Connecticut we people are seeing.
I know.
Yeah, you
I
see them
see.
all over. You see them all over, but it's more. I don't know why. Like I don't, like I said, I'm a UFO type of person. Like I always follow that. I was always interested in that. As a child, like I said, I saw them, but I never bothered because it's just I was a kid and I was more worried about cartoons and things like that. Tom and Jerry and things like that on a Saturday night and look in the sky. But as an adult, because of when I realized what I was actually seeing when I was a kid, and I was like, I realized what I saw. So I've been seeing them all along. I just didn't know what it was, and people don't really talk about it. But you can go on YouTube and stuff like that, and Google, and you can look, UFOs in Puerto Rico and this and that, and you'll be able to see a lot of the pictures and some of the videos and things like that. But people, like I said, it's funny because people, like when I brought my fiance there. She was shocked. We're just hanging over there. You can see the lights and everybody just tailgating, drinking beers, just playing music and just watching. Oh, there goes another one. Oh, there goes another one, and that's it, They don't make a big deal about it, like.
So Jose, would you be willing to share your full story? We're booking into February right now.
Oh, well, it might take a little while. Yeah,
So if
I
you're
can give you some
interested,
I can give you some
please.
information. When, like I said, I try to summarize it because there's so much that I saw, so much that I learned in my life forever. You know, I like I said, I was having issues. I became overweight. I became a diabetic. I became overweight, and this and that. I was skinny all my life, and then I went from 165 to like I gained like 100 something pounds. When I became a diabetic, which I became a diabetic when I was very skinny. A lot of people think it's only for people that are overweight, which is not true. You know, and that's what got me because I never thought that I was a diabetic. So I became a diabetic, and all of a sudden my health went down really bad. And at one point, I was having issues. I could feel chest pain and things like that. But even I'm 49 years old, but even though I'm 49, I feel like I'm very old school. So I don't believe in going to the hospital unless I'm dying. I rather die in the waiting room for 6 hours. Waterbury, it was 11 hours before they get your name. So I refused to go and this and that. And then, like I said, one night I was very tired. I laid down in bed. And it was probably like around 10 o'clock at night, and I suffer from insomnia anyway. So, but I was very tired that night, and I remember going to sleep. But then in the middle, it was probably like around 12:30 at night. I had like a really bad chest pain, and I woke up. And then when I woke up, because of the pain, I tried to move, but I was like paralyzed. I couldn't move, So, I knew I was awake, because I could hear. I was staying at my mom's house at that time. I was living with my parents at that time, like 3 years ago. And I could hear my mom's TV on, everything, everybody's talking and things like that, So I knew I was awake, but I couldn't move. So I'm trying to talk and I couldn't even talk. So it was like I was like paralyzed, And the pain was so hard that I felt like I was being stabbed with a knife right on my chest. And then I hurt my heart. I can hear my heart beating and slowing down to the point that it stopped. Right when my heart stopped, everything just went black. It became very dark. I didn't see no white tunnel like everybody else does and things like that, which I still wonder nowadays why I didn't. But when I opened my eyes, I was in a different location, a different place. Now, I have only told this story to probably a few people, about 5 people, because it's difficult to talk about things like that. People don't believe and this and that, and think you're crazy, whatever. But when I opened my eyes, I was in this place that was so beautiful. It looked like a beautiful forest, And the one thing that shocked me, the first thing that shocked me was I was looking at the grass. It was beautiful grass, and it was like harmony, and I could hear a sound like a very beautiful song that I've never heard here before. But it was all like dancing with the grass, which it was weird, But of course, on that side, you don't, I mean, it's weird, but you don't have the same emotions you have here, And I started looking around, and like I said, the grass was beautiful, and there was a lot of trees and a lot of flowers and plants around that I've never seen here, and they were just amazing, So it was
Mm.
beautiful. But then what shocked me was the colors. The color, I think that most that we have here is 8K. That was like 50K. And the colors were so bright, and I actually saw some colors that I've never seen here, you know.
Mm.
But it was just beautiful. It's something that I saw here in this earth in real life. I'm not much of a nature person, so I would, like my girlfriend always wants me to go hiking and things like that. I was like, nah, it's too hot. I don't want to do that. Look at the view. I care less about the view. I'm like, okay, I seen it one time. That's enough for me. But I was so shocked when I was there because it was just so beautiful. So as I'm walking, I keep looking around, and then I'm like, where am I? Because and then all of a sudden inside of me, I felt this overwhelmed feeling of love. Like I've never felt here before, and I know for a fact I will never feel that. You know, and when I felt that inside of me, I felt complete. You know, it's been 3 years since that happened, so it's taken me a while to try to come up with the right words of how to explain it because it's difficult to explain the feelings and the things that I experienced there. It's so difficult to explain here with the words that we have here.
Yes.
Because it's like I speak Spanish, English, and I speak Italian. So in between Spanish and English, there's a lot of words that you can translate. So it was the same thing as when I was there and here. There's certain things that I saw that I can't put into words of the emotion of happiness. Like it's like happiness times 10,000. So we don't have a word for that.
Because energy is not explainable.
It's,
That's why we just come as close to it as possible.
exactly. So
Yeah.
as I was walking, I felt that. I felt that love. And all of a sudden, I stopped walking, looking around because I didn't know. It was just like a beautiful, walkway, And I see this building that looked like a castle, like a beautiful castle in England. So I'm looking, I'm like, where the hell am I? Like I'm definitely lost. And I hear this beautiful voice that said, "Keep walking, my son. Don't be afraid." As I heard that voice, all of a sudden the next emotion that I felt is that I was home. And finally I was like, oh my God, all this time. And when you come home and you're like, oh, I'm so happy that I'm home. When you go on vacation, I was like, oh, there's no place like home. I knew that I was actually home. And I was like, oh my God. So I became very emotional, like kind of like sad, but more happy than anything else, that I was actually home. And then I'm thinking to myself, because I overthink things all the time, and I'm thinking to myself, all of this time that I was back, in this world or whatever, and thinking that was my house, and I'm struggling and doing all these things and concerned about my home, that wasn't even my home, And this is my home, because now I really feel that I'm home, I keep walking, and then as I'm walking, I get close to where the castle is, and I remember seeing this beautiful water fountain that was there, and it was very beautiful, nothing I've ever seen before. And then I see these humongous doors in front of that castle, and then the door opened, and it was actually my daughter. I do have a daughter that passed away 13 years ago from cancer, and she was 3 years old when she passed away. And my daughter actually walked out, and she started screaming, "Daddy, Daddy," and she came running towards me. And of course, I dropped down, and I'm like crying, but I'm crying out of happiness, Like the whole time that I was there, I never really had any like sad moments, because I was just fulfilled like so much love that it didn't matter, So I was just so happy to see her, and she came and gave me a hug, and then I said, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Daddy, you here because you're here. You're gonna go inside and you're gonna talk to some people, and you're lucky that you're here, and you were picked to come here because they're gonna show you certain things. And you're gonna learn certain things, So just come inside with me, and I'm gonna bring you to the people that you're gonna go see." So I said, okay. So I'm walking inside. She's holding my hand. When I walked inside the building, it was like the best way I can explain it. It's like the movie Star Trek, The Enterprise, that outside the building looks small, but when you went inside, it looked like the biggest mall in the world. So it didn't make sense, I'm like, what's going on? Like this place is humongous. And it was a beautiful building. It kind of looked like definitely like a castle. Like there was all marble floors and the walls and everything, but there was a lot of diamonds and stones and gold, and again a lot of different colors that I've never seen before. But it was very beautiful, very beautiful. I'm walking down the hall with my daughter, and there's a lot of doors to the side, and I'm just walking, and she's pulling my hand, and I'm walking, and I'm just looking from left to right, just trying to get all of that in, because I was like, where am I? This is really cool, you know. And I remember one of the first doors that was to my right that I looked. There was a big, huge room, and it was nothing but books. And I guess those are the books of knowledge. And but I can see there was a couple of people sitting there reading those books, and the books. One of the books that I was able to see was humongous, and just the covers of the books were amazing because they were all covered in gold and these beautiful designs and things like that. And that's kind of like a book I would be afraid to open and ruin, you know. So I kept walking, and as I kept walking, I saw I looked to my left. Something told me to look to my left, and when I looked to my left, it was my mom that actually passed away probably like 6 months prior to that experience that I had. And me and my mom, you know, even though she loved me very much, we never really got along. We used to fight a lot, argue a lot because we had the same attitude, you know. And we used to argue about a lot of things, especially religion, you know. And when I saw her, you know, she was sitting there with some people, some elderly people. But I'll tell you this much: the one thing that I noticed, and that everybody that was there, no matter what age they were, even though everybody looked like they were in their 30s, they were all beautiful. You know, like beautiful skin, beautiful faces, and everything looked like models. You know, and like even, you know, me looking at other men that were walking around. In the other side, you don't have the mentality you have here, that if you look at another man and or you must be gay or something like that. You know, like I look at the males and I was like, wow, those are beautiful people. That's a nice looking guy. You know, like the stuff that you see on TV. You know, but everybody looked good. So I remember walking by and I looked to the left and I saw my mom. So I went in there and I said, hey mom. And she looked at me and she was like, hi, how are you? She was sitting down with some elderly, which I understood afterward, they're actually the wise men, you know. And she was sitting there talking to the wise men, and they were reading these books and stuff like that. My mom said, listen, I'm not going to be able to talk to you right now, but I just want to let you know that you were right the whole time about everything that you're talking about. So that, you know, completed me. You know, I felt so good after 48 years of fighting with my mom about everything. You know? Like right there, I said, okay, you can sit back. I'm good. I don't need to see anybody else, you know? So she was like, you're right about everything and this and that. I'm sorry that everything that happened, but you're gonna go meet other people right now. And they're gonna talk to you about all the things, you know, and we all requested for you to come. And I said, okay, well, am I gonna see you again? Yes, you will. So I walked away again. My daughter brings me into this one room, a door that led to the outside, like a little patio. When I went into that patio, there was a lady on a rocking chair, but her back was towards me. So my daughter brought me around. And when she brought me around and I saw the lady, it was a lady, she had white hair, beautiful. It was a lady I used to work with. Her name was Eunice. And I totally forgot about her because I used to work with her 30 years ago. I used to work in a group home. I was a group home manager for the mentally disabled. And one of the group homes that I used to manage, there was one lady there. She was probably in her 70s or 80s at that time. Her name was Eunice. And she was such a nice lady. And I used to, at night, she always had trouble sleeping. And I worked with her for about 3 years. And at night, I used to sit there with her because she was afraid of going to bed alone. So I used to sit there at night and talk to her, or read a book to her, or sing, you know. And one day, out of nowhere, I was in my 20s at that time. I don't know why. I just told her, you know, which I forgot about it until she mentioned it. But I told her, I said, Eunice, you know, me, of course, being young and stupid, I already knew she was getting older. So I was like, she probably doesn't have that much time left. So I told her, I said, hey, you know, I said, Eunice, do me a favor, because I love you so much and I love you love me too. When you go to heaven, make sure you talk to God for me, you know, and tell him that no matter what I do right now, you know, I don't do things in purpose, you know. Sometimes when I make mistakes, I'm still thinking in my head that it's the right thing, but even though it's not, you know. So they like I said, that's what I told her at that time. And so when I actually went there and I saw her, she got up from the chair, came and gave me a hug, And then she came and told me, she was like, "Oh my God, I've been wanting to see you. You don't know what I had to do to get you to come here because it wasn't your time, but I have to, beg people and go over my superiors because I wanted you, because I never forgot that you asked me to bring you here. And because I promised you that I will, that's why you're here." I was like, "Oh, thank you so much, Eunice." And I was just so amazed that she looked so beautiful. And I was like, "You look so beautiful." She was like, I know. Everybody looks beautiful here, Jose." And I was like, "Yeah, but I know you look so beautiful. So happy to see you." Because I totally forgot about her. And again, she told me the same thing. She said, "You're gonna meet some people, pay attention to the things they're gonna teach you here. And the reason why you're here is because you were losing faith. And we don't want you to lose faith because you're going into the right direction. All of those people that will seek will find. And you've been seeking and you've been finding. But sometimes, when you find too many things that might look unrealistic or everybody else around you doesn't feel that it's right, you start wondering yourself, am I crazy? Or why am I the only one that sees things for what they are, compared to everybody else? Like I was the odd one of the group, I always look at things differently. So from there, I ended up my daughter ended up leaving, walking away. She said, "Oh, I will see you soon." She brought me to another door right before she was going to bring me to this one room where I was going to meet the wise men. That one door, when she opened it, it was like a big glass door. It looked like a barn door, but really decorated, really pretty. From there, I was able to see a view of heaven. So what it was part of heaven, but it was outside of heaven. It was more of a processing center, which is weird to say, but that's what it was, like a processing center. And then I was able to see. So when I asked my daughter, "Is that what heaven is?" She was like, "Yeah, that's what." Well, heaven, people think it's just one place, but it's not. It's many places, you know. But I was able to see it, and it was just amazing. Like some of the pictures that you see here, compared to what I saw, some of the pictures you'll see, there's all castles and things like that. What I was able to see, yes, you see some of that, but most of the buildings and everything that I saw from a distance, they were very futuristic, which is something that I was wondering why people, again, I don't want to batch somebody else's experience because it's different, but just reading things and seeing things on TV, and I see people, they always talk about these castles that look like antique, and I was like, with all of the technology and how smart God is, and this and that, why would he want people to live in these old buildings, when we're moving in technology so much, So again, it was beautiful. What I saw was amazing, amazing. I walked back in, I went into the room, and into the room there was 4 people there, and they were all dressed in white with these like long dresses, and they greeted me, and at that time they were talking to me telepathically. I didn't realize it at first, because again, you're there and you're involved in what's going on, so you're not really questioning things. But I was able to hear I could feel what they were telling me. And they told me, "We're going to show your life review, blah, 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 blah." So then they started with the life review. With the life review, again, I started seeing things from when I was a kid that I totally forgot, that I've never, ever after it happened, ever thought about those moments, but every moment, every minute is recorded. Everything is recorded, and they can show you everything back in detail, The worst part about that, it was good and bad, is that I was able to feel every emotion of that one incident. And what I got out of that was very difficult for me is basically they show me the happy moments, of course, but they show me some sad moments, And when you go into the review, completely opposite of what the Bible and the religion says, you're not being punished, and you're not going to be punished. Because the only reason why we're here is to experience things. And we're here to experience the good and the bad. Mostly the bad. Because all the good, we can get it in heaven from where we came from, So they show me certain scenarios, where certain things that I said to people when I was arguing with them, it hurt their feelings. And I was able to feel what they felt, probably 10 times stronger. And that literally almost killed me because the pain that I felt. And, it opened my eyes to, I have to be careful of what I say to people because, when you say something to somebody, this is what I learned from that. When you say something to somebody, you can't go according to that person's reaction. And the reason why is because all of us, you know, when somebody's attacking you, most of us put up a front, put up a shield, and we try not to show those emotions, but you really are hurting. It's just that you don't want to show it, because if you showing it, then you're giving that person more credit, to what they're saying, and more power. But I was in the other side feeling, because I was the one doing the insulting and the things like that, and I felt the pain that they actually felt, and it was the worst pain that I ever felt. Not knowing, and all they were doing just showing me, this is the pain that you can cause to somebody else, especially when you're going off or you're telling somebody off. And you know how we get angry? A lot of the times we say things that we actually don't mean, and they are not true, but you're still hurting that person. Because even if that person never heard that before, now from now on, that person might believe that from now on for the rest of their life. Just like when we're kids and we're told something, you might carry that on for the rest of your life, thinking that that's how you are. Like if as a kid you call stupid, everybody calls you stupid, you might grow up thinking that you are stupid and you're not, But that was one of the things that bothered me the most, And again, they showed me good deeds that I did, the whole purpose of the deeds, basically, if for example, if you do somebody a favor, make sure you're not wanting anything in return, because if we want something in return, even if you're just thinking about it, because even your thoughts are shown to you, so even if you're thinking about it right there, that just kills the whole purpose of you doing that person a favor. They know, everything that you're doing and for what reason that you're doing it, but then again, you're not being punished for it, and all they're doing is showing you. Because I was ashamed when I was watching certain things, on that screen, and they were just sitting there like nothing. Like I looked at them like, oh my God, what kind of reaction they're gonna have? Maybe I don't know, kick me out of here too, and but they were completely fine. They were like, oh yeah, remember when you did this? Now we're showing you this. So they were explaining to me each scenario what they were actually looking for in that scenario. In this scenario, you missed the whole point. The whole point is that you did this without anybody asking you to do this. You had all the important things to do, and you stopped doing all of that because you wanted to help this person. Same way that they show me, when you got upset about this person, you should have known everything that had to do with that situation before you made a judgment and you went off at that person. And the way that you did was that important, and that for you to go off at that person. So that's what my life review was about. From there I was asked if I had any questions, which they already knew that I had questions, but that was my opportunity. And I said, well, I got several questions. I don't know how much time I have here, but, I said, we're just asking some of the questions that you think that are most important. And I said, well, number one question that I have is, why does God allow pain? Because that always bothered me, I understand that certain people deserve certain things and people look for things, but I myself, when my daughter was sick, she had brain cancer. I went to St. Jude's Hospital, Memphis, Tennessee. I was there for a year with my daughter, and I saw many kids pass away. And when right in front of my eyes, I became friends with all the families, all the kids that were there, and this and that. So that always bothered me, because I was like, why this innocent child? I mean, from this one soul, this innocent child is here. I can write a list of 100 people that I think that deserve that, compared to this one child who didn't do nothing to nobody. So when I asked that question, as they were talking to me and explaining things to me, they were showing me scenarios on the screen so I can understand that better. So this is what the information that I got from, which made a lot of sense to me, why God allows pain. The reason why God allows pain is not that he allows pain. It's that we are here on a journey, and our journey, which we pick way ahead of time before we come here, we pick the journey of the things that we want to go through to be able to move up in levels of consciousness in heaven, in the other side. So there's about 7 or 8 levels in heaven. And when we move up from one level to the other level, there's certain things that we have to experience and learn in order to move up. Just like when you go to college, So that's what we needed. So we get to pick most of the things that happen to us here, because God loves us so much, he does not interfere with the things that we plan ourselves to go through, like me losing my daughter. You know, my daughter coming in as a journey for just 3 years. That was part of the journey. We create our journeys together by ourselves and as a group. So almost every person that you get to meet here, whether it was for the good reason or the bad reason, that was part of your journey. Or a lot of those people in the other side got together. And of course, our level of mentality here is only about less than 1% compared to the other side. So in the other side, you have, you know, your level of intelligence, which is called, you know, of course, they call it consciousness, is so high that they can create a whole life plan in 2 minutes. You know, compared to us here, that will take us 2 years to come up with a plan like that. So basically, why God allows pain, what I was told, which makes sense to me, is because of we are here in a journey. So we have guides that are with us all the time. You know, some of us has one, two, three, you know, which is what some of us call the guardian angels, but there are guides, you know, and they intervene with certain things that are not part of our journey. But their job is only to intervene with those things that are not part of our journey. The other parts that we chose to do, like me, for example, losing my daughter, or things that I got in trouble for, you know, whatever, you know, those are all part of the journey that I chose in order to learn from that, you know. Now, the whole point of us coming here to this journey is, you know, which for what I was told, which still to this day is still shocking to me, you know, we are fortunate that we are in this world because it's one of the most difficult worlds to live in, you know, which I agree, you know, but you know, saying that we are fortunate, of course, I'm like, I don't know about that, you know. So, you know, but you know, so he only allows, he intervenes on certain things that are not part of your journey. That's the only time that he actually intervenes. Sometimes he might intervene in certain situations, you know, just to give you a little push on your face so you can go and so you don't give up. You don't give up, you know. And
Jose, excuse me.
Yeah.
This is your first time here, right?
Yes.
Okay. We love the idea of you being so free to and expressing yourself, but this is an open forum, so other people have other things that they want to discuss.
Yes.
And again, I would love to book you for a future event, so you'll have lots of time to talk, and then people can ask you questions.
Yes.
How's
Yeah,
that?
no problem. Told you it was a little story.
Okay, very good. All right. So the agenda. What's the next topic on the agenda? Does anybody have the agenda in front of them?
I do.
Thank
And thank you so much, Jose. That was fascinating.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
David, it's David's question. David, God took my clothes, and I think I got it, but you can certainly rephrase it. What is the NDE effect on relationships and marriages after the experiencer returns? Is that your question?
I believe that was, but that was quite some time ago. I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so I'll have to take your word for it that was my question.
That's a good question.
Well, okay. The reason I'm curious is, again, to those of you who don't know me in the group, I've never had my own near-death experience or out-of-body experience or anything like that. I'm just a researcher, and I researched NDEs for about 14 years, and I've heard around 1,000 NDEs. So I don't have any firsthand experience, but I hear from some that quite a few get divorced after their NDE because they come back a completely different person. So one guy was real materialistic, and his wife was too. And when he came back, he just wasn't interested in that anymore. He was interested in humanitarian work and things like that. And so his wife left him. And if the marriage does continue, it seems to continue in a completely different way. And the other thing I noticed was that they come back sort of with this unconditional love for everyone, and close friends and family members who are used to having a certain priority would get a little envious. And I just wanted to know, anybody else in the group, what you personally experienced or what you've heard from other NDEs. I'm just kind of curious because it's an area that's not real solidified in my mind what the after effects are.
Anybody?
Very good. Yes. Thank you, Donna. Laurie? Hi, Laurie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my NDE happened because I was extremely ill. And I don't know that I changed right after the NDE. I believe, like Jose said, God intervened. I was not supposed to die from toxic mold in my mobile home. So I had a voice tell me to get out. So I got out, but I was really sick and I was married at the time, and I did get divorced. But it wasn't because of the NDE so much as it was, I didn't know if I was going to live or die for a long time. I felt like I had 1 foot here and 1 foot not here. And I chose to get divorced because it felt like I wanted to go alone to either die or get better. And that if I stayed married to this person, it wasn't going to be good, either way, that I just needed to be alone. So I did that. And I guess I don't regret it. And I'm still very good friends with my ex-husband, and it's okay that way. But my NDE has been changing me slowly in other ways. And but that's as far as the relationship goes. I don't think it was so much the NDE, but now that I've had the NDE and my eyes have opened up to other realms and the spiritual world, I don't think that the person is interested in that topic at all. But I have communicated some of my experiences with friends and family, and some of them are not sure if they believe me or not. But I still choose to share little bits of information. So thank you.
Well, I believe you. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing.
Andrea,
that.
you're next.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I absolutely, as I was being loaded into the ambulance, I knew my marriage was over. I was actually a little ashamed of myself that I had to wait to have this huge accident and this incredible wake-up call with the NDE to do something that I should have done anyway, but I didn't have the courage to do it before. But there's another aspect that I've never told anybody about, and this was the key to what unfolded for the next 20 years, because it actually was 31 years ago, my NDE, and I remember it like it happened 5 minutes ago, like you, Jose. You remember every detail.
Mhm.
And it was that the day my NDE happened was the day of my grandmother's funeral. And my grandmother chose, while I was out of my body, to come in and take my body to finish part of her journey. And I didn't know any of this, but I knew that so many things happened with the NDE, but particularly her essence, her energy being in me. I think I did tell you, my grandmother had really bad table manners because she lived alone for many years. And I started having the same awful table manners. She used to make these huge burps at dinner, and I started doing it. And it was so embarrassing. And she would eat with her mouth open. Honestly, it was really awful. And all of a sudden, I found myself, seriously, I was asking one day, what is going on? And I found myself in a bookstore, and I found myself in front of a New Age section, and I opened it up, and there it was. Boom, walk-ins. And they will come, and they will walk in and spend time with you to accomplish a mission. And that's why the day when she said, okay, we're going into business, it's like I knew she was with me, and really, this was a mission we had to accomplish. And we did. And I did start a business, and I did call it her name, and it did give me all the financial freedom that I needed as a single mom with 3 kids and no income. So there was the aspect of the husband and that relationship, and there was no question. The moment I came to, as they were strapping me into that ambulance, I knew it was over. But the aspect of the grandmother who stayed, and she stayed 7 years, and then I had some small surgery, and I was put under a general anesthetic. And I don't know how it happened, but when I woke up, she was gone. She wasn't there anymore.
Amazing.
Yeah, I had heard about that before, walk-ins, soul sharing, things like that. I've heard that in my research. Not too
Yes.
common, but it's there.
I
That's-
never talk about that because that seems so crazy, you know?
No,
That is what happened. Yeah.
That's hysterical. The
Thank
bell
you
thing.
very
Oh,
much.
that's just too rich.
very good. So any other sharing about the effects of near-death experience on marriages?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Kathy has her hand up, and so does Jack, and so does Willie. So if we go to, actually, I did that order wrong. It was Kathy, and then it was Willie, and then it was Jack.
okay, Very
Yeah, I was just going to say that, well, two things. Jose, your story is so wonderful. And I would love to just forego what I was going to talk about to listen to the rest of your story.
Well,
We
It's
met
gonna
up
be
there.
booked.
We'll see we'll see if Tina will approve of that or not. But I just wanted to say my near-death experience happened when I was 5. So and I've been married for 40 years, but I can tell you, it's a challenge staying married for 40 years. And a part of it is just that, I'm much more generous and giving than my husband is. And so, he has this fear that if he dies before me, then I'm just going to give away all of our money. So, we kind of go back and forth a lot about, him not really understanding me. And honestly, I got to say that this group has helped me realize, how much my near-death experience has shaped my life and certain parts of my life that I kind of wasn't thinking that it was because of that. So it's really helped me in my retired years to be understanding my life. And but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It's a challenge because I think marriage is a challenge anyway. But anyway, I guess that's all I'm going to say about that. That's it.
Thank you. Willie?
Well, all this talk has just got me wondering and thinking, could I be living in an NDE right now? In other words, this is my NDE. When you get to a certain age, you look back at life and it looks like things happen like that, right? And it sounds an awful lot like what I've been hearing. So that's just one thing that I want to throw out. The other thing is about dreams. I think we live in different dimensions at the same time. I think we are multi-dimensional beings. I think dreams are not just something that happens in your mind and in your consciousness. I think it's another life that we take time out to live. So it's all together. Death, passing away, dreaming. It's all different dimensions that we are involved in as beings. And I just want to throw that out.
Thank you. Jack and then Rebecca?
Okay. Well, really interesting. Originally the concern was that people who had NDEs were so transformed that generally the relationships would break up, and NDE have average about 70% divorce. But in some of these cases, Andrea and Kathy, there were certain positive aspects from the NDE that changed your life. So it's interesting. We have, as it happens, Bethany and Jim.
Bruton?
I'm sorry.
Jim Bruton?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Jim Bruton and Diane Ohio. They're working on a project where they're trying to come up with a program to help people who have NDEs and are they're traumatized, or that it changes their lives, they get divorced, all of these negative aspects. And I don't know if Bethany wants to share some of that research right now or not, but it's something that it's in the works, and hopefully the project will be presented at the IONS conference. Do you want to add anything on that, Bethany?
Oh, thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for bringing that up. We have our proposal actually was it's a 12-step program, and it's integrating after an NDE. And I know, Andrea, you have another a book that you wrote, and that's also 12 steps with your daughter, right? Yes. The focus that our work has is all the trying to take into account all the different experiences that people have after they have an NDE, and help them and help their family members reintegrate after that experience. So I know, Jose, you said, you talk about this and people look at you or treat you like you're crazy. And that's a common experience. And I know Jim, who couldn't be with us tonight, he's doing a major project, had an NDE and sought out therapy, and the therapist also treated him like he was crazy. And that's just so challenging. So it's Jim Bruton, myself, and Diana DeFranco Marquez Lyons is also working with us. And Diana is a therapist who specializes in supporting people who've had near-death experiences and helping them integrate after that experience. So yeah, this all came about because when Jim spoke in January, he said, gosh, we really need a 12-step program for integrating after an NDE. So I wrote to him afterwards and said, is that your book that you're writing? And he said, no. And I said, well, let's do it. So we brought Diana on board and have been working on it since, and we'll present Labor Day weekend at the International Association for Near-Death Studies. So we're excited about that. And we'll share more. Maybe Tina, I'll book a time with you, Tina, in the future when we could talk in more detail about that. But thank you, Jack, for raising that.
Yeah, I've asked you to you and Jim to talk to Jim and Diana. Maybe you can present in January.
That sounds good. That sounds
All
good.
right.
And I'll turn
Very
this
good.
over to Rebecca. I know you've had your hand up patiently.
Yes, Rebecca, please.
Okay. I don't know how to lower my hand. But God Clothes, I don't know if this is anything you'd be interested in. So my marriage of 32 years ended before my near-death experience. And prior to my marriage ending, since I was a child, since I was born, I always knew there was something happening with me. And I was with my husband, like I said, for 32 years, and he got to witness a lot of those things happen. And some call them gifts, some call them a lot of things. Right now, they're not really feeling like a lot of gifts right now. They're feeling very painful and hard. But anyway, my marriage ended, and I always knew, and if I stay here long enough, if we all stay here long enough, then the proof will come. It always comes. It just, sometimes it's in a minute, sometimes it's in 3 days, sometimes it's overnight, sometimes it's in 5 years, sometimes it's in 2 months. But I was told before and after my near-death experience that me and my husband will be getting back together. And I have had the ability to watch that happen since my near-death experience play out. If that makes any sense. I can see us coming towards each other. We had to be apart to learn, kind of as Jose was expressing, we had to learn some things that we are here to learn, and we are here to learn that that almost anything is amenable and love can conquer all. And so he's going to be showing up at my apartment door, which I'm in right now. I saw this apartment before I got here. And since I had my near-death experience in September, he's now starting, he got remarried 23 days later. So it's been brutal. It has been the most horrendous. And my dad died shortly after that. And so my near-death experience included that. So, God took my clothes, and I am coincidentally, I'm in a 12-step program in Narcotics Anonymous for drinking, because my health issue that led me to, which I still have, it's not cured, it's not resolved yet. They said you will get much sicker after, and it has to be that way. It just has to be that way. It's for your family. It's a genetic problem, and sorry, you're the sacrificial lamb, but that's the way it is. But yeah, he's going to show up, and I'm going to take him back. And I'm going to take him back. And if anybody knew who I was before, you would know that, just Google me. It's a literally take an act of God to make that happen. And it did take an act of God, and I got to feel his pain. They allowed me to since the near-death experience, to sit in front of him next to his abuser. And I got to sit knee to knee, face to face with him when he was younger. And I, like in the movie The Green Mile, and like you experienced, I got to feel his pain that's inside of him. And it was the most horrendous thing I've ever felt in my entire life, ever. And I've been through a lot of physical pain, and I can feel a lot of other things, but I've never felt anything like that in my life. And that is why I'm going to be able to, and all this that's happened is going to allow me to be kind to him and not treat him the way that I did when he treated me the way he did. And so my marriage is going to come back, and our children are going to heal, and the abusive cycles are going to end with us in our little section of our family. So that's what I was told is our pretty much purpose. So I don't know if that is anything that you're interested in, because it hasn't happened yet. But I'll be here, and maybe he'll be sitting next to me on a couch somewhere. So you never know. Well, I do know, but I don't know if the group will still be here or whatever. But yeah, my marriage, it's amazing. It's amazing. So anyway, thank you everybody for sharing.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you, Rebecca. That was something I was interested in. It was very unique because I had heard about, a marriage continuing in a very different way. I had heard about marriages breaking up. This is the first instance of an NDEer getting back together with their spouse because of their NDE or as part of that. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, Deb Parker. Hi, Deb. Deb, you're not on. Okay.
Rebecca, I just want to say thank you for sharing. And being an empath, I know exactly how and what you feel. And I actually just wrote an article on it in my group, and I indicated that we, as empaths, we can feel a lot of that. I had experienced similar things with the Newtown shootings. Every night I felt the pain of the parent for 26 days. It was awful. It was excruciating. I had met a wonderful person because I was like in torment. Like, why are you giving me this gift when I can't do anything about it? And I think in your case, it was a full circle so that you could actually empathize with your husband and actually feel some of that pain he was in and integrate it into your system. One of the things that I found out that we can do as an empath is ask the divine source and your guides to lessen, to bring the light in so that we don't feel it as intense as we do. Because for me, it felt like my heart was glass and it just was breaking in shards of glass. And it was horrible. And at the same time, I was doing a Bible study, which really created that portal for me and I do get other things that come to me, but now since I requested from them to make it a little bit lighter so I don't feel the physical part of it, I can actually just see it and not get into that depth. So that is one thing. And I think also the ancestors, I know for myself that one of my purposes here on this earth was there was a certain pattern in my family from my ancestors up forward. And I had to do a lot of intense work on it in order for, to break those patterns that get imprinted into us that we carry forward in generations. So that is definitely, something that is great that's happening for you, that you're breaking that pattern so that your children won't have to go through that process, And that's why a lot of us are here actually to help bring that light in and to allow it to go to the light. So that thank you for doing the work, because you're helping all of us evolve and bring us all up to a higher Christ consciousness. And the other thing I want to say is when we experience a near-death experience, when we experience the light is knowledge, and what happens is it brings us up to a higher vibration. We're all a frequency. The divine source knows us by our frequency. And so when we come back and we're in a marriage, what happens is if there is a difference of vibration and it gets to a point where it is such a high difference, a lot of times those marriages can't succeed because of the difference. It's a law. It's a law of vibration. So what happens is, and Bethany, thank you for creating a course in integration, because I think that's what's really needed for people to understand what is happening to the marriages and to the people when they're going through this near-death experiences. By law, if there is such a difference, it no longer can be in our field anymore. So that is sometimes what is causing the divorces that are occurring. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Deb. It's interesting that they also said that he's getting sicker and sicker. He didn't have a faith. He didn't know. He doesn't believe in something, or he wasn't sure. Let me rephrase that. He was never sure. He was more, he needed proof and evidence. Well, he's getting it. He's getting knocked to his knees now, and he's got aneurysms and heart problems and spine surgeries, and she's going to leave him, and he's going to be so broken. And so, so I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm working on the lightening the load, because as they said, it would be stronger when I came back, and it is 100 times stronger, and it is almost unbearable. So I see energy healers. I meditate now. I go to I forget her name. I'm so sorry. My mind is a mess. Listen to her. I just do a lot of stuff right now and work on it. So thank you.
Sound meditation is very good. And I think in the future, you're going to see a lot of healing taking place from sound meditation, because it is a vibration and it moves the trauma from our cells that are in us. So I would suggest definitely doing that and ask your guides to help take that heaviness away from you, just make it lighter. Yeah. And I think, I hate the other person does not have to be a believer in source. We think that, and let me tell you, my ex was an atheist and here I NDE and I'm, so I know the whole course. But they don't, if they are a person who is doing God's work, being kind, being compassionate, doing all the things, they can still carry that vibration. They don't have to have that, divine sources out there, or, I don't believe in that stuff. As long as they're a person that is doing that kind of work that we are all doing, that is okay. That is considered, something that is going to help, so don't, and it's our belief systems. So we get stuck in this, it's got to be this way, and we have to be open to understanding how and why we believe what we believe and stuff like that. So
Absolutely. Very true. Yes.
Thank you, Deb. And by the way, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation to be our speaker in November.
yes.
Looking forward to that. Thank you. So anyone else? What is the next topic?
Oh, the next topic is something really exciting. It is the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies Award Program. It's Jack and I put this topic in. Jack told me about it, and I just have to share with you what this is. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and it was also in the invitation that you received. But Robert Bigelow made a substantial amount of money in the aerospace industry, and what he is investing in is evidence that the consciousness survives death. And when I say he made a lot of money, he had a recent contest in 2021 where you had to apply in order to submit, make a submission to this contest. But it wasn't. I'm sorry, my son is in the background. I don't know if you can hear him. But you had to apply, and he was looking for convincing scientific evidence that consciousness exists after death. And the man made a tremendous investment. The prizes, and I don't know if you've ever considered entering an essay contest or a poetry contest or a writing contest, but the prizes totaled $1.8 million.
Wow.
And the top winning prize the top winning essay is by Jeffrey Mishlove, and he was awarded $500,000 for his essay. So this is just a wonderful compilation of a well-structured, well-organized resource. And I'm just going to put the link in the chat here, and just am curious to know if anyone had followed the link and looked at the any of the essays.
Not yet.
But I think I saw someone hand go up, so I'm thinking, is it Donna? Yes, Donna Gordon.
Yeah, hi Bethany. That's fascinating, because you said that he wanted proof of consciousness existing after death. Did it have to be proven scientifically, or how does one, just quickly, do you know how it was proved scientifically?
That's a great question, Donna. So
the winning essay is Jeffrey Mishloff's essay. And what Jeffrey has done, and I think it's Dr. Mishloff. What he's done is he has created a framework, a structure for, let me just pull up his graphic because it's really great. And what he did in his essay is he linked everything to, and this may not show exactly the way I want it to, but let's see. Share a window. And it's got to be this one. Okay. So what he did was he has the question in the center, post-mortem survival of human consciousness. And then he compiled evidence, very convincing evidence from near-death experience literature, and the veridical evidence that people report, such as the famous case of the man who had a near-death experience, and they brought in a crash cart to give him cardiac CPR, not CPR, but
Resuscitation.
thank you. I think I needed a nurse to say that. But they brought in a crash cart, and he saw himself leave his body, and he was watching them work on him, and he saw that they took his false teeth out and they put them in the drawer of the crash cart. And he was resuscitated. He came back, but he was clinically dead. And this veridical evidence of him telling them they had confessed that they could not find his false teeth. And he said, oh no, they're in the crash cart. You put them in the second drawer down. They're on the left, and you left them there when you were using the machine to give my heart a jump start. And they went back and checked the crash cart, and sure enough, that's where his teeth were. So there's veridical evidence from near-death experiences. There's communication after death between people on this plane and people who have passed over. And I think one of Jack's questions tonight was about flashing lights and birds and other signals from people who have passed. But there are some very clear communications from after death, people who have passed on. There's evidence for reincarnation, which is usually when a young child under the age of 10, as soon as they can start to talk, they'll start telling you about a life they lived. And they've actually hundreds of cases where they've gotten the evidence that, yes, in fact, this person is claiming to be, there was one person who was on the Titanic. There was another person who was in a blimp, the gas-filled blimps, and it crashed. And he was he had all this child, this 2, 3, 4-year-old child, is speaking to all these facts that happened. Sorry about that. During the crash. So there's evidence that he knew his name, he spoke another language, all of these things that young children, and by the time they're 10 years old, they really don't recall, they begin to let go of that former life many times. There's a peak in Darien experience, which is a mountain peak in Panama, where you can climb up the Atlantic side, and you look over and suddenly see the Pacific side, the Pacific Ocean. And it's, I think I have that right. Anyway, that one I don't understand so well, but I have to go back and reread the essay. There is possession. There's evidence of possession. Instrumental transcommunication, which is people, instrumental transcommunication is when communication comes through a phone call from someone, and they could have been on the phone with them for a half hour, and they end their conversation and they go to the door, and there's someone knocking at the door, and they say, what's wrong? And they say, so-and-so died. And the person who just had the phone call with them says, no, I was just on the phone with them for 30 minutes. And but there's evidence that the person had died the day before. And that's the example that Dr. Mishlove uses. There's xenoglossy, which is speaking other languages. So if you're born in the United States to a family that speaks English, and suddenly you're able to speak Russian or a language that is not in your family, there's evidence there. And people have reported lives that they've experienced. And then there's mental mediumship, which is, I know many of you have that talent where you can communicate with spirit. And there's also physical mediumship, which is manifesting physical evidence of energy and life force beyond what we experience. So Dr. Mishlove pulls all of these elements together to speak to the postmortem survival of human consciousness. And it's a really well done essay. Although it is a little long, you really kind of have to take some time with it because it's about, I think it's 79 pages. But there's lots of great links in it too. And that's 97 pages, I'm sorry. There's lots of great links in it where he pulls evidence from the field from different people. We had Dr. Bruce Grayson as one of our guest speakers one time, thanks to Jack and Tina's inviting him to come and speak to us. And he's linked in that essay, as well as many other people. So long conversation about that. I'm sorry to take up so much time, but really exciting stuff. And that's the first essay. And there are 29 essays. So if you're looking for a little support and other people are making you feel like, gosh, they're treating me like I was on one of those UFOs that Jose mentioned earlier. There's really a lot of great intellectual people who are doing rigorous research around this topic.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what they were considering evidence, because I mean, as when I was active clergy in my synagogue, I was visited by a congregant that I had buried the week before. And, when I asked him questions, he just said, well, I'm kind of new at this, and I don't quite know what to do. And and I said, well, how did you know and where to find me? I mean, I didn't know the person in life, and he certainly wouldn't know where I lived. And he just knew at the funeral, as someone had alluded to earlier, that each of us has our own energy signature. And so they know where you are, and they can find you if they want to. So that was interesting. So I just wanted to get a brief idea of what kind of evidence they would take, and I wasn't sure they would take something like, well, yeah, I was visited by a dead congregant one night. Whether they would believe something like that or not. It's like anybody can say they spoke with the dead or something, but people don't know. They really don't understand the things that mediums go through, and how much it takes for them to connect, etc. So that was great. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
I think there's a double standard, though, when it comes to evidence for spirituality, because there's tens of thousands of documented near-death experiences. If you had tens of thousands of people testify in a court of law, all saying basically the same thing, it would be considered overwhelming evidence. If you look at just empirical evidence on a scientific basis, there's far more empirical evidence for near-death experiences than there are for things like dark matter or black holes, which are generally accepted theories. So it's a double standard, in my opinion.
Thank you, David.
Well, there's research has indicated that over 300 million people have had an NDE. Now, here you have so much. It's not empirical facts, but it's it's a testament that there is a common experience dealing with the afterlife or being on the other side. We're just so what these studies that Bethany was talking about is trying to present an NDE and its implications by more scientific facts rather than just just somebody's experience, and there's no witness, there's no way to prove it, etc. So it's coming. They're getting a little closer, and I think this Bigelow has done a fantastic job in inviting people, and they don't necessarily have to be scientists to submit a proposal, etc. But anyway, we're getting there. Well, we're almost at the end of our hour and a half. There's still more to be discussed, and we'll carry that over to the next open forum. In the meantime, we are trying to establish who our speaker will be in August. And as soon as that is resolved, we'll let you know. So,
Jack, you're going to take care of that for August because I'm taking the month off. So I will be the speaker in September. All right.
yes, yes. Well,
Thank you.
you're taking the August off for vacation.
Yeah.
The meeting is still going to go on. We're working on that, and we'll have a speaker before too long. So,
How about Jose?
I'm sorry.
How about Jose being our speaker?
What do they actually do?
We're
Yes.
open, Jose.
Part of it.
What does the speaker do? I don't understand.
What you just did. What you did.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Totally finish, but to expand a little more and finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I have to sit down and write everything down because
Not necessarily, but then the people will ask you questions after you've finished your presentation.
Oh,
You did
okay.
perfect,
That's not a
Jose.
problem. I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought you did a great job on the fly. I thought that was
Yes,
fantastic.
it's perfect.
Thank you.
Don't change a thing.
Okay, so Jose, get in touch with Jack.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, thank you. This has been a very vigorous meeting. As I always predicted, our open forums are always quite exciting and interesting. Want to wish you all well. Do you have anything else to say before you go on vacation, Tina?
No, just I'm sorry that some of our speakers didn't get to speak, but we could always book something for later, like Kathy, for example, what you had to share. We could do that later. Thank you. Just enjoy this beautiful weather we're having, and thank you all for participating.
Okay.
Thank you,
A wonderful day.
Jose.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Have a wonderful day. God bless.
God
Care-
bless you all.
Thank you, Jose.
You're welcome.
Thank you.